Another customary thing that we do at each of our board meetings is we recite the school district's mission statement. And many of you folks here, at least to me, look like this might be your first Board of Education meeting. It may in fact be the first time you've heard the mission statement. And it's important for everyone to understand that as a board, we are each individually elected by the public, and we take an oath of office when we join the board, and we are obligated to all the work that we do on this board is centered around this mission statement. And it's important that we understand it and understand the meaning of it. In our quest for excellence, the Ichabod Crane Central School District is dedicated to preparing all students to meet the challenges of our future and to appreciate the value of their own lives by nurturing each individual's unique talents, instilling a desire for lifelong learning, and fostering a strong spirit of community. At the back of the room, there are copies of our agenda for tonight. If anyone doesn't have one, they're available back there. The second item on our agenda today is a student recognition. And I would like to turn the floor over to Superintendent Bordick, who has an announcement.
Well, it's my pleasure to be here this evening to participate in this recognition. Certainly, sometimes we hear some of the negative things about young people, and sometimes we don't hear enough about all the positive things that young people do. And in this particular case, this is particularly extraordinary. So I'm going to have Mr. Farley take the podium, please, and help in the presentation award for the young people who were involved in this heroic act of being and Mrs. McCann was supposed to be here this evening. She was not sure she would be able to make it, so I haven't met her, so if she's there, let me know. But hopefully she'll join us before the evening concludes. But she said on the phone today that it was such a special feeling of all the people trying to help her, and she's doing well. So, Mr. Farley.
I'd like to just add to what Mr. Bordick was saying. So many times we hear about the adolescents making some poor choices. And here's a situation where a group of adolescents work together, doing the right thing, stepping up. And I'm going to list the 10 students who were part of, they worked together to literally save a woman's life. Actually, I'll read a part of the letter that they all received from me. On behalf of the Ichabod Crane School District, I would like to formally commend you for your heroism of June 24, 2010. I've read with pride the accounting of the details in the Register Star. Your ability to stay calm, think quickly, and work as a team with your classmates is truly amazing. Your actions saved a woman's life, and you should be very proud. I know everyone in this room is. I'm very proud of everything you guys did that day. And actually, would you guys like to hear from the kids kind of a brief snippet of what happened that day? I would too. Aileen, Rachel, boys? No? Aileen, you've never been shy for words? We would love to hear. Just briefly what happened. You're at the Patrick Reserve.
Okay, let's try this again. Okay, so it was a half day at school, and we all wanted to go swimming or do something. I'm doing better this time, stop it. So we went to Patrick, and a bunch of people were swimming around and just swimming and stuff, and then I didn't want to swim, and they told me to go in, so I was walking to go in, and then Pat kind of just fell.
Now this is Pat McCann?
Yeah. And everybody thought she was a practice dummy, so we just looked at her, and then she started moaning, so everybody walked over to her to see if she was okay, and she wasn't okay, and she was bleeding from her head and whatnot, so we did what we had to do there. Don't want to get into graphic detail again about that.
She was bleeding quite badly.
Yeah.
You applied pressure, you used a t-shirt.
With her t-shirt, which she never got back.
I'm sure we can find a t-shirt.
Yeah, I'll buy you a new one.
And these gentlemen ran off, helped call 911, got the ambulance and the EMTs and victim.
Wonderful.
Who was successfully rescued,
Yeah.
brought
And,
to Albany Med.
yeah, and I think, I don't know, but I heard Matt helped find the dog or something.
Oh, that's right, she had a dog that was with her on the trail. What happened?
The dog, I guess, just like ran off, and like I went up to the top of the hill and found the dog. It's a greyhound.
Yeah. And you were able to get the dog and bring him or her back?
Oh, that's wonderful.
I'm sorry?
I said, that's wonderful.
It is wonderful. Pets are absolutely
I'm
part of the
curious
family.
what the height of the fall was, would you estimate?
Like 50 feet.
Yeah, that's what it said in the paper, 50 feet.
No, I think it's wonderful.
So,
Thank you.
I think everyone here is here except for Scott, is that?
Yeah, Scott Kowalski.
Scotty and Lupe.
Yes, everyone except for Scott Kowalski. So the students, and as I call your name, and who? Lupe. Okay, I wasn't aware of Lupe. All right, I can add Lupe too. Thank you for follow-up. Aileen, the students involved were Aileen Corrigan, Rachel Harvender, Matt Putnam, Richard Martin, Michael LaBelle, Brandon LaBelle, Richie Dorval, Tim Rossi, Kian Rivenberg, and Scott Kowalski. And if you guys could come up here, Mrs. Trowbridge made these beautiful certificates.
Hold it, hold it.
I'll read them to you. It says, hero, remember upon the conduct of each depends the fate of all. Alexander the Great. We, the undersigned, hereby make known publicly our appreciation of and respect for your heroic actions taken on June 24th, 2010.
Ask him if you can
You
get
guys
it
did
so
a
I can get
great
it
thing
closer.
that day.
Go get it,
Great
would you?
representative for peers, all your peers, and the school and the community. You guys did a great job. Congratulations.
I want to see that.
Let's grab one from the kids.
Okay.
All of you. That's Here, give that to
I'll get
Brandon.
one from the kids.
Michael.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Thank you, Scotty. Hills. Rachel. Tim.
Thank you.
Pass that back, please. Ian.
Would any of the parents out there like to get a picture of all these kids
Matt?
together?
Actually, why don't you guys
Mr.
bring
Farley,
your
Mr. Bordick?
pictures and kind of get together in the front of the board here. Right in the front and so we
Right
get.
up.
And
Thank you, sweetie.
You're welcome.
Good job, thank you.
Let me get the back of my head.
Put your head between your knees, honey.
Can you make maybe 2 rows, folks?
2 rows of
They
heroes.
can stand up. Find out, get on your knees. Did you read that?
Someone's got the giggles. Everyone get the pictures? Anyone else? One more time, good. Thank you very much.
The rest of the agenda. Okay? So for those, thank you very much for coming. For those that were just here for the recognition, thank you for coming. For those that are interested in anything else later in the agenda, we assure you we will not be very long. So at this point, I would like a motion to move to executive session, please. Second? Second. Okay. All in favor? That's unanimous. The meeting is adjourned to executive session and we'll return shortly. Thank you. At this point, we've reconvened and we need to approve the present agenda. And can I please have a motion? So moved. And a second? Second. Okay. I think we have a couple of modifications. First being that on the consent agenda, 11O is being moved to a discussion item. And that is going to be, Mindy, do you have a preference? Do you want to call that 12J?
I got a 12J already.
Okay.
Depending on what you can say.
12K? 12K, all right. So 11O will become 12K. There's also a
You're 11
that
all.
everyone should have gotten on the blue piece of paper.
Okay, yep.
That adds 12J, which is another discussion action item. There also is, do we have on the agenda board open discussion? I believe we do, correct?
Yes.
All right. So we don't necessarily need to flesh out what's going to go on there. We have it on the agenda, so
Number 7.
there will be some discussion during that time. Is there anything else that any other board members wish to see moved? We addressed what you needed, right, Tom? Okay. All right. So they would be the changes. All those in favor of that modified agenda, raise one hand, please. And that's unanimous. Thank you. At this point, we're moving on to number 4, public hearing. So I'd like to turn this over to Mr. Portick.
Well, as the board has viewed and reviewed the code of conduct, the athletic code of conduct, as well as the attendance policy, there is a requirement to have a public hearing on the code of conduct. And that's what we're going to be doing now. If there are any questions or comments, we'd be happy to address any of the 3. I might add that the policy committee has met, and an attempt to try to establish the process for future code of conduct reviews to distinguish between policy versus protocols or procedures. The policy committee recommended that the first part of each of those 3 policies that I mentioned would be considered the policy part, which is more of the general statement, and then the subsequent part would be considered administrative regulations. So in the future, that there would only be a requirement of 1 meeting to do the adoption for all those 3. So that now that is established from this point forward. So we don't have that confusion whether it needs 3 readings or not. If in fact any of the 3 policies on the generalized statement need to be changed, then that would then require the 3 meetings. But the normal protocols and procedures that the administrators and staff work on and tweak and change, that could be done in 1 meeting. But other than that, are there any comments? We'll go forward.
We had some good discussion.
A Veterans Memorial in the Martin H. Glenn Square, across from Martin H. Glenn School Building. This memorial would recognize all those in the town of Kinder who have served in the military, whether it be during a time of war or whenever. I'm not sure if these were handed out to you guys. If you have them.
Do we have them?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Aldan.
Okay.
Let's just, I'll look on with Mr. Devin. I'm sorry about that.
No problem.
Thanks, Tom.
The memorial would be about 35 feet from the existing gazebo, 23 feet from the exiting brickway. So it'd be kind of in the back area, away from the current memorial. If you go to page 10, you'll see the tax map of the square, and you'll see a rough drawing of the location of the memorial. Also on page 6 is an architect's drawing of the proposed memorial, and also, as of last Wednesday, this has become a separate project other than my Eagle project. So, currently working with the American Legion as a community project so that the village and town can have this memorial.
Does that pretty much wrap it up?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
typically, let me first say that during this part of our agenda, the board typically does not respond to issues that are brought up. It's more of a deliberative thing. We think about the things that people say. This is slightly different because we did have it on our agenda to discuss this as a consent item. What we talked about just a few minutes ago, taking an item off of consent and putting it on an action item, was this point, okay? And I know that my fellow board members have been giving this some thought, but I also believe, at least for my part, I'm speaking personally, that we hadn't heard all the information that we need to hear.
Right.
So we're very glad that you and your father are here, because I'm sure some of us might have questions, okay? There's also some questions that we're bound to have that can't be answered by you or your dad, or by our administration. We're probably going to have to go outside, either to other legal bodies, governmental bodies, and get some answers to some of our questions. I think I understand. The scope of your project. I have a couple of comments or questions that I'll reserve to the end for you, but I would like to open it up first to my fellow board colleagues to see what questions they might have. I'll start with Mr. Phillips.
Yes, I had two questions for you. When we first heard about the project, I volunteered to go back and revisit the park, which I've done previously a number of occasions. So I reminded myself in that visit of the specific memorials we have: Korean War, World War II, Vietnam, the World War, no other language with it, and Civil War. So one question I had is, I'm just kind of curious how you thought of the idea and thought about the idea of honoring everyone from the... How did that idea germinate?
Well, it first originated that my Eagle project was brought up by Mr. Burrell from the American Legion, and he came to me with updating a deceased veterans directory that was previously done by a member of Troop 113 back in 1999. And what I was going to do is go through the local cemeteries and just update the veterans and their information and put them on individual, like small bulletin boards or some kind of memorial in those cemeteries. And then thought came of combining all of the three memorials and building one centralized one. And also, instead of just burying or memorializing those individuals buried in these cemeteries, include anyone who lived in the town of Glendora, because I have a grandfather who just passed away, and he lived in the town for around 5 years, maybe more, I'm not too sure. And he's buried up in Germantown. So just the fact that veterans could be from the town could be buried anywhere, I was informed by, so.
Maybe you've already found it then, but you're entering into the vast realm of governmental possibility of the red tape and regulations. Sometimes what sounds very simple when things start get less than simple. Thank you.
Mr. Neufeld.
I for one live in the village, and you actually can see the bell tower from the church from my house. I'm just curious, is this separate from the other project? Because that's not what I'm not clear on that from your presentation. Earlier I thought this was one project, now it's two projects?
Yeah, originally it was going to be my Eagle project, part of my Eagle project, but the troop saw that it was too extensive toward the time constraints I'm under. So instead of incorporating in as many Eagle projects, I'm trying to do it as a separate project, just with the help of the American Legion and
So we're looking at two projects.
just one.
This one.
You're really only considering one. The other one is the Deagle project, which gathers information for this, but is not impacting this as presented to the school.
I think that perhaps a better way to distinguish this is that it's the same project that we had on our agenda. The only difference right now is it's not, I don't want to use the word endorsed, but it's not part of his Eagle Scout project.
But are
Something
they
easily
two
as it
separate
is.
physical I guess what I'm asking, are they two separate physical projects?
No.
There's one physical memorial,
There's one
and
physical,
that's what's being presented here tonight.
that's not the one on the agenda? Or that's what you're presenting?
That's what's on the agenda.
That's what physical project is on the agenda.
Right.
And what you're presenting is,
The project that's on the agenda.
project is on it, okay.
The only difference, though, I would offer is that our agenda item says to approve the Eagle Scout Memorial.
That's what I'm
No longer is
Right.
an Eagle Scout.
It's no longer part of his Eagle Scout.
It's a memorial
So
that
the
Aldan
just the
Race
title's
as a
been
citizen
Right.
is
Okay,
proposing
the
to
title's
do.
been changed, okay, thank you.
So,
All right. Title's
Well,
been changed.
if I may add, not only the title, but the scope. It was our understanding that the scope was a little bit more limited than the new project, so we'd have to look at that part.
Right. And what is the planned height of this project?
oh, I'm sorry, what was that?
Height?
The height?
The flagpoles.
Flagpoles. I'm not sure about the flagpoles right now, but each of the walls would be 4 feet in
4
height.
feet?
4 feet in height, yeah.
The height of the flagpoles would be planned by the American Legion in conjunction of what the existing flagpoles are, the American flag, the POW MIA flag, and what's already there. So I would envision these would be 20 feet, 24 feet.
The flagpoles?
The flagpoles themselves, so maybe a total height of 24 feet.
Okay.
But that's a question that Commander Burrell of the American Legion would have to answer along with Mayor Stabell.
Mr. Harson?
Yes, technical questions on the project. Who will actually be building the structure?
We've had veterans volunteer to help build, but also we're looking into that right now, as in who will actually do the physical building. So could be anyone who volunteers.
Okay. I think that, and I don't know the direction because I've never been involved in this type of project before. We may need to go to the lease and look at insurance impact with that. And is there an architect's design? Because this is a very good design, but for construction purposes, it's not technically a construction drawing. Is there a construction drawing?
That's the design we got from the architect right now. We were going to wait to see if it got approved to do
Oh,
an
I see, to go
actual-
further. Oh, that makes
Right.
sense, sure.
I want to, if you don't mind, I want to
Yeah, yeah.
just reiterate on what he had stated. The idea is to get to get veterans involved, so veterans that have specialties such as being a mason or construction, they'll also be involved. When it was an Eagle project, we were looking to get donations of materials and labor and things of that nature, and that's still the case, but it'll be going more through the American Legion now that it's no longer, dictated by the Scouts.
Right.
So,
Yeah,
any expertise, it's not that somebody's gonna go over there and, slap things together.
And I'm
Yeah.
less concerned about quality than I am about safety.
Sure.
I mean, that they all are operating under the auspices of one, project management, and that it's done, in a timely manner, over, a brief period of time, rather than, well, the volunteers are coming in, and now we have to wait a couple more
Right.
months. That sort of thing that would be destructive to the village itself. You may not know, I could probably calculate this. What's the total footprint of the structure? I'm looking for that, but frankly doing the geometric calculations in my head off the top of right now.
The total wingspan at this point is, it's about 42 feet.
42 feet
From end of sidewalk of one wall to the end of sidewalk
of the other
other
wall, 42 feet. So okay, that gets me on the right.
Yeah, each wall is about 10 feet, and the Pentagon, if it was in a circle, if you have the inscribed circle, is about a diameter of 11 feet,
Right.
12 feet.
Okay.
But that'll also be dictated by the number of veterans that will be placed on the memorial. Right now, that memorial's geared to house about 1,800 veterans.
Okay.
But if, there's gonna be a mass mailing that goes along with this to help identify additional veterans. So if, there's 2,500 veterans that were identified, let's just say a round number, then it has to be planned accordingly to either stretch it or make it higher to accommodate the.
The individual plaque.
Right.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I saw Tom and then John.
Also, Church Street, where Glendora is a historic, not officially, but it's a historic district. Have you spoken to community members community people who live on the street? And I'm thinking one person in particular, Ray Andrews, who is an architect, and lives on Church Street. Have you spoken to any of them?
I haven't personally spoken to any of them, but Mr. Burrell has been communicating with the members of the community for me. So I haven't personally done
Do
it.
you know what the response is to it?
From what I've heard, it's positive. So, but yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Atlas.
Timeframe?
Hopefully, well, originally when it was part of my Eagle project, I was hoping it would be done by November, but I'm not sure at this point now. It all depends on the response from the mass mailing and how many names you get back.
And you're running the majority of this through the American Legion, so do you have like sponsorship from some of the members, or have people, any kind of fundraising to cover costs such as project oversight? You'd have to have this sort of laid on a survey map. I don't know what kind of setback requirements that you'll have to meet for a structure like this. I mean, I think there's a lot of things that maybe would have to be discussed by the village. I mean, I don't know that would really fall in our realm here, but.
Well, the village, both the village and the town officially, we've been told, past this and are on board with it. There's nothing officially in writing. A lot of what you would expect for a project to be done ahead of time was not allowed to be done, because when this was an Eagle project, if it had not yet been approved by the Boy Scouts of America, he had limited work he could do on the project. So we're here now presenting the idea, and then there's a lot of things that have to be, designed, talked about, and, pulled together, and then presented at another meeting. You're just getting the bare bones of the project with, approximations of distances and things like that, which are pretty close.
There's quite a few in there, and I believe you, it's not like, but I mean, right, we'll need to have something, and there's a cost to that, so that's what I was saying. And you had mentioned that you're going through the American Legion first, so I didn't know if you had any, like, sponsorship levels, people, or if you started that process yet, or.
That'll be discussed with the American Legion on the next time we meet with them. But originally, he was gonna do a mass mailing to find out more additional veterans information, but maybe buy a brick campaign, and then your typical fundraising of, hit the banks and the major companies that service the town, because it's really a town project.
Would you have your architect or engineer be sort of the project, provide some type of project oversight on this or something?
That we've had to discuss that with the architect. He was providing this as a favor because he's a close friend of the family, but now it's no longer an Eagle Scout project, and, as a professional, he might even.
Well, so I mean, I think that would add weight, whatever board or committee you're having to go in front of, if you sort of have somebody of that, that's gonna sort of, oversee it. I understand you're getting volunteers, you're getting sponsorship, but to have somebody who would sort of oversee the.
I want to be clear, this is my 16-year-old son, and
Right.
this was once part of an Eagle project, where there would be provided oversight. He himself could not do that.
Right.
He's now doing this as a volunteer project
Right.
for the American Legion. He's not a construction engineer. He's not going to
Right.
provide the oversight. So A lot of that would have to come from the American Legion, Commander Burrell, who's a builder himself. So, you know, those types of questions we can try to get answered, but at the next meeting, I would think that he may have to come and speak. Because, again, he's not here as a builder or you know, construction engineer or anything like that.
You know, I don't even know if this is the body really to have, I don't know. That was sort of my point.
Certainly a start.
Right.
I mean, he didn't even know he had to, you know, talk to the school board until 10 days ago when it was brought up that that property belonged to the school instead of the village, so.
But a great concept, I'm not downing the concept.
Why isn't it an Eagle project anymore?
Well, it was part of an Eagle project, but they saw that this part was too extensive to a time frame I'd given myself. So, they just said that it wasn't necessary because the other parts were enough for an Eagle project, so they just told me to take it off.
This was at the troop level, or?
Right, troop level.